G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to War Thunder. Today we're going to have a look at the most expensive boy in the game, coming in at 40-something thousand silver lions to repair. But at the same time, what is the question with the 264? Is it really overpowered? Why is it at 4.0? Why does it have a 42,000 silver lion repair cost? Is it really that good? Is it really that worthy of such a low battle rating? And is it really that fun to play? Well, let's find out. The gameplay in the background has been taken from a couple of matches. I played all 10 free repairs, and to be honest, I don't think I care to play anymore. I find bomber gameplay in general quite boring. I find bombers in general to be quite boring and tedious. And I think the whole thing behind bombers is a larger question that I've already gone through in a previous video at the beginning of the year, actually. So if you'd like to check that out, feel free. And understand that I don't hate bombers. I don't hate bomber pilots. Well, some bomber pilots. Helmet potato. If you climb to space in a bomber, I've always said this. I don't really like it when bomber pilots do that, and I really don't have any sympathy for these people. Especially the ones that J out when you get close. And yes, thank you, Gaijin. They have done the good thing. And, given the kill to someone within a 5-kilometer radius. So there are a couple of issues that have been sort of sorted out, if you will. But at the same time, the bigger issues, like the bombers themselves, having pretty little impact for what they can possibly do. Bombers, traditionally, especially long-range heavy bombers like the 264, the B-17, the B-24, the B-29, the Tu-4, the P-8, I guess, had a role which involved staying out of interception range and delivering a large payload to a target very far away. There are only 2 situations in War Thunder that is possible, and that is 1, delivering a payload to an airfield, which is, it makes sense. And 2, delivering a payload in enduring conflict or enduring confrontation. Now, enduring confrontation was a thing, and is a thing for Sim, but for RB and AB, never really has been. I don't want to talk about bombers in AB because I don't play bombers in AB, and I don't play AB. But in realistic battles, what I would suggest for long-range heavy bombers is that they be removed from air RB if they do not have a forward-facing armament. So things like the B-25, the Canberra, the certain variants of the 217. I think especially the 4-engine long-range heavy bombers, such as the B-29, B-17, the 264, the HE-177 as well. Technically, that's 4-engine heavy bomber. But bombers that were designed for strategic long-range bombing missions en masse, as in like in numbers of 100 plus or 30 plus or whatever, I don't think they have a place in realistic battles because they can't deal with fighters. And there are no objectives for them to deal with, apart from the bases and the airfield. I don't think that this should be the case. I would kind of like the bases to mean something. Maybe put the bases behind the airfield, and maybe they release ground units, or maybe they do something a little bit more dynamic. But I've already discussed this in another video. What I would like to see is that for the sake of fighters who are chasing down bombers, and for the sake of bombers who keep getting intercepted by fighters before they reach their target, I would suggest that they be put in a permanent EC, and this be rotated. For example, you have Ruhr one day, and then the next day you have, Berlin. One day you have, I have no idea, it could be anything. Sicily, it could be Malta, it could be whatever you want it to be. Whichever conflict, and it could just be a blown up map like this one here, that just goes on for miles and miles. It doesn't matter. It can be whatever people want, and I don't see a problem with bombers having that mode. And they get their AI fighter escorts. They get perhaps a 4-man squad of bombers, 3 of them being AI. Maybe they could have the opportunity to deliver a special payload like an engineer that would repair an airfield. It could be anything that is more dynamic for EC. And I think all the really dynamic stuff belongs in EC, because EC is a long, drawn-out game mode, whereas RB is quick, snappy, 15 minutes in and out. But for the ME264, while it's in RB, it's honestly not that amazing. It's got MG151s and it's got MG131s and it's big and it's fast, but I would compare this performance very much similarly to, I guess a hybrid between a B29 and a 177. This thing's all the way down at 4.0 for some ungodly reason. Of course, like, I can shear the wing off a B25, but that's anything that an MG151 can do. The B25, if he played it smart, could probably shear my wing off with his 50 cals. I don't think that this thing needs a 40,000 Silverline repair cost for its battle rating. I think, for its battle rating, for 4.0, if this thing was to permanently remain at 4.0, maybe. I don't think it should be 4.0. This thing is better than a Lancaster and sits at a battle rating of 1.7 below it, or 1.3 below it. The Lincoln, it is better than the Lincoln. I've played the Lincoln. I enjoyed the Lincoln for what it is. And it's nowhere near the capabilities of the 264. The 264 should not have such a low battle rating. I would see a simple fix in it being raised to something like 5.3 or 5.7. And the repair cost being taken down from 40,000 to, say, 8,000, where it is a lot more reasonable, or 10,000, or whatever. Just not 40,000. I think that's ridiculous. Gaijin uses battle ratings and repair costs to balance things. And it seems like in this case, they don't want to increase the battle ratings. So what they'll do is they'll increase the repair cost, which, sits naturally in their line of doing things. And, it's normal for what Gaijin would do. They do things like that for the TAR 152C, so it doesn't have to face jets. Things like the HE-177, the B-29, so it doesn't have to face air-to-air missiles. The TU-4 has to, because it's just too good. But that's also so it doesn't clog up high-tier gameplay with, let's face it, slow, crappy, long-range heavy bombers. I think what Gaijin needs to do with this plane is up-tier it. It's very simple. Just put it at 5.3, and it won't have a ridiculous repair cost. At 4.0, I can understand why some people would say it's justified, but I don't think it should be sitting at 4.0. I think it's really unreasonable to sit it at 4.0. Of course, if you get too low, you get shredded by fighters, and that's natural for a heavy bomber. But with a heavy bomber, obviously, this is the least ideal situation at the moment in the game for it. They should have their own game mode, realistically, but that's probably not going to happen for a long time. So we have what we have to deal with, and I think just putting it at 5.7, putting it at a battle rating where it won't suffer from being too high, and at the same time, it won't devastate the tier below it. This thing faces everything all the way down to 3.0. So, yeah, good luck killing this in the Boomerang. Good luck killing this in an Ishak. Good fucking luck, but that's why they have given it an exorbitant repair cost, a massive repair cost, because it's simply really, really high performing. I don't think it should be at this battle rating, because it is high performing. I honestly think that it should be given a higher battle rating, and that would be so simple. I don't know why Gaijin already hasn't done that. It's just really, really straightforward, and it's a solution that I think Gaijin has perhaps overlooked. I don't know why it sits at 4.0. I don't know whose idea that was. But, for now, I guess maybe it is worth the 42,000 at 4.0. I don't want it to be 42,000. I don't think it should be, because I think the battle rating should be increased. And that would run with Gaijin's logic, the way Gaijin sees things, and the way Gaijin does things, it would run in line with their logic. So I genuinely don't see why it shouldn't have a battle rating increase instead of a ridiculous repair cost. And it would do just fine. I think it would do just as well at 5.0 as it would at 4.0. Just because it's able to stay out of the way of fighters. And if you play it smart, if you don't just climb into them if you go, side climb, I guess, you'll end up at 7,000, 8,000 meters, and you'll be able to outdo some fighters. I think there's, something behind bombers, but honestly, in general, bomber gameplay is really boring. And you can see me here, I'm having to chase down fighters to make my own fun. This is really boring. And the footage you're seeing in the background is really boring. I wouldn't have put this footage up if I were in a fighter. If I were in an attacker even, I wouldn't put this footage up. The fact is, bombers are boring. I don't know who would play this plane past 10 repairs. I really don't know why I would play this plane any more than I have to for a video. It's extremely boring because bomber gameplay in War Thunder at the moment is boring. I've already made a very long video on why I think bombers should get an improvement and, how they should get an improvement exactly. But I think you should go and watch that instead of me repeating myself again. I think if bombers were more exciting, then I would play them more, perhaps. But at the moment, they're just so dry and there's nothing to it. You fly in a straight line, you press spacebar a few times, you die, and then you go into another match. I don't know who could enjoy that, honestly. And I think the players that do play bombers start off in the game. They're more casual, much like I was at the beginning of the time I played War Thunder. I loved playing the B-17, and you can see it on my stat card. I really enjoyed playing things like the B-25, and again, you can see that on my stat card. But eventually, I ended up just playing fighters. I ended up playing ground attackers, and then eventually fighters, because I found that fighters were a lot more fun, a lot more enjoyable, and perhaps you could do something along the lines of that with an enduring conflict mode. Players could play EC, and then as they get used to the game, as they get used to the mechanics, they can start playing realistic battles, and they'll understand that playing a fighter is fun, just as fun as playing a bomber in EC might be. I think there's real merit to that, and I would really love Gaijin to take a look at just the way that they do bombers, because I think it would be fun. And I think it would be fantastic. Just seeing exactly how it would fare. But anyway, ladies and gents, that's enough for today. Hope you enjoyed the subpar gameplay. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Take care, and I'll catch you next time.